Welcome back to the Landcare and Action stream of the National Landcare Conference 2021. My name is Andrew Scott, Bush Care Officer for North Sydney Council. This session is titled, We Don't Just Grow Trees, We Grow People. I would like to ask you to submit questions during the presentation rather than at the end, because there will be a limited amount of time to answer them at that point. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Philip Moran from Noosa and District Landcare Group. Please start your presentation now, Philip.
Hey, thank you very much, Andrew, and thank you both for listening on this virtual event today. So, as you can see, what I wanted to talk to you about is not just the amount of trees that Noosa Landcare sticks in the ground, but how we can help and foster people at the same time. So this first picture is just telling you our mob, and every single one of these people is paid. So we actually have 58 people on staff at the moment, and they're all pretty happy. So a little bit about the history of the organisation. We were established in 1990. We're the second biggest employer in Pomona. We now have 3 nurseries. We produce over 200,000 trees a year, and we have quite an influence on our local community and broader. So we do actually grow some trees. Apart from just the human beings, we do grow some trees. And here's an example of one of the sites that we've got. This is 12,000 trees planted on an offset for the Sunshine Coast Council down at Darren. This next one here is a really interesting project. This is one that's a partnership between the Queensland Trust for Nature and Greenfleet. And the lady that project manages this, Tamara, she's an absolute cracker, and Erin that helped her and all the people, 127,500 trees planted in 5 months. This was a koala planting, and they were all planted by hand. So they were infill plantings, so we kept the wattles, and the outcome here should be pretty good. I should note that this is a nature refuge, so the land is protected in perpetuity. This is another interesting one. We're strong believers in a partnership approach, and this is called a pile forest on the Mary River. Partnership, you can see the partners down the bottom there. And on this particular site here, we planted 9,000 trees. I was out there last week. It's looking really good. Now, it wasn't always so. So this is a picture of Noosa Landcare's first nursery. Get a load of the outside dunny. So this is where we started. I joined in 1991, and the potting was actually done on the kitchen bench inside. But things have developed since that time. And this is actually looking out my office window right now, where I am now. So we actually have 3 nurseries. This is one of our production nurseries. By developing the nurseries and producing really quality stock, not only have we increased sales, but you can do the capital deepening and you can increase the margin on projects. So we buy the trees for our projects from ourselves. During the COVID thing, as it's now, we're locked down here now, people can still order, and they do a drive-through, almost like a McDonald's drive-through, where we give them the plants and they go. As far as where we work anywhere. Currently, we've got projects from Ipswich in the south through to Miriam Vale in the north. However, the biggest reward for a lot of us is not just the number of trees, but it's the people that we've been able to grow over that time. So since 2002, Noosa Landcare has provided pathways to employment through accredited traineeship to over 250 people. Now, of those 250 people, 80% secured employment within 3 months of finishing their traineeship, and a further 10% went back into higher education. That's 90% of the people that have been through our system that have either got a full-time job or employment out of it. There are times when we've had up to 25 trainees roaming around the joint at one time. We need to be organised to be able to look after people at that level, all sorts of different skill levels, emotional levels, etc. We also currently are running traineeships, not only in conservation and land management, but also in business and retail. And I would like to commend the Queensland State Government for their Skilling Queenslanders for Work initiative, which is a terrific program that, combined with the First Start traineeship, is what has enabled us to carry out this work. The Skilling Queenslanders for Work crew, they are allowed to work on council or state government land. They can't work on private land. But this is a way for us to strengthen our partnership with our local council. Noosa Council loves us. They get a tremendous amount of free work done on their reserves via our training program. So it's a training ground for these young people. And because they live here, they can come back and say, I planted that tree. This site was full of, Singapore daisy, and now look at it. The other thing is it gets young and not so young people out into the bush, develops teamwork, sets up a routine, and these are things that are necessary for ongoing employment. Some of the things they do is it helps self-esteem. The last couple of times we've done interviews, a number of our younger people have said to us that they're worried about eco-anxiety. It was a term I wasn't familiar with, but they're worried about climate change. They're worried about what their kids are going to be getting brought into. And they want to do more than just click a button on their mobile phone. They want to get out there and actually do something. So we help them. And they get to develop all sorts of skills working in a team environment. The other one that's really good about it is they get to go to places like this. If you have a look in the background there, you can see that's the Cooloola sand blow. So Noosa Heads is down here, Pacific Ocean, and this is near Kingpin in the Sunshine Coast hinterland. It's a tough day at the office when you've got to work in a place like this. One of the other things that we get about putting people in these situations is they get to meet and network, if you like, with other organisations. This is a planting we have for the Noosa Triathlon. The Noosa Triathlon is the biggest triathlon in the Southern Hemisphere. They have 12,000 participants. Each one of those participants donates $1, which goes to Noosa Landcare, which we use to supply trees to plant along the Noosa Trail network. And this is an example of their staff coming out on the day to help plant trees. What we want this to be is the Noosa Tri Forest. So each year, if participants come back, they can go along the Noosa Trail network and see where their little plantings are going. We've got some other wonderful arrangements with other people within Noosa that we do this. I'd like to particularly mention Peppers, Noosa Resort and Spa. They were the ones that first started. They give $2 from each function guest to Noosa Landcare, which we use to plant trees. This is a tangible way for the hospitality industry to give back to the environment that is attracting these guests. Tourism Noosa, to their great credit, has embraced the program, and it's actually called Trees for Tourism. So we work very closely with them. To me, it's not unusual at all for business and the environment to be compatible. They're not incompatible. We can work hand in hand, and we've proved it up here. The other good thing about it is we get to pick the good ones. So instead of interviewing somebody for 15 minutes and hoping they're not an axe murderer, we get to see these people for 22 weeks or a year, pick the best, and then put them onto our own crew. There's 15 people in these photos. 12 of them have got jobs with either us or within the industry. There's one young lady here on the top right. This is Alana. Alana already had an honours in environmental science, but she didn't know a great deal about plant ID and weed ID. So she came to us, did a Skilling Queenslanders for Work. She got paid, not very much, but she got paid. So it was like university where you got some money, and she developed a great suite of skills. We saw her as a person of great skill and potential. She then did a first start 1 year traineeship, and now she manages an SEQ water project called Source Protection, and also one up in the Susan River, which goes into Hervey Bay. Outstanding. All these people are just wonderful people that we've been able to bring on. We've seen that they've got some great skills, so we've snaffled them up. What the other thing that it does, it is the health of our land and water, the health of the land care movement, and each individual's health, which people do struggle at times. And these three, I think, are very, very important. We're also really lucky to have a Kabi Kabi or Gubbi Gubbi First Nations employment program, which is through the Department of Transport and Main Roads. This is a program which gives 2 trainees over 5 years. So it's 2 trainees per year for 5 years. They get a Conservation Land Management Cert 3, Agricultural Chemical Distribution Certificate, First Aid, White Card, Chainsaw Ticket. So they're up and employable. And these kids are great to have here. We're really pleased to work with our First Nations people and learn from them and getting them back working on country. Here's a couple of the stars of the show. Laurie on the left is a damn good rugby league player, but he's not bad at killing weeds. As soon as he finished with us, Queensland Parks and Wildlife said, we'll have that kid. So he's working full time with them. The guy on the right, Josh, he worked in our field crew, and he's very close to becoming a supervisor. He's terrific. His previous job was a glazer. Owen, our nursery manager, his previous job was a tree lopper. So he's doing penance for chopping trees now by growing trees. Alana, Jamie Knight, Stephanie Keys, Kira, assistant manager of our retail operation, Andrew, Bronte, Jacob, Lou, Louise, all on our field crew. I'm really pleased to have these people working with us. This is our Kabi mob and a couple of Skilling Queenslanders for Work guys. The guy with the arrow above his head is Darren. We all know him as Bardo. He's been with us for 16 years. He has an incredible ability to relate to people at their level and to bring their strengths out. Darren may not have a master's in education, but he should. The way he brings people together, he's like the Pied Piper. They all try to find him and follow him around during the day. So we're very, very pleased to have people like that working with us. He can work with different personality types, and we sure as hell have that. This is graduation day, which is a bittersweet day for us. It's when they leave, but it's interesting to see them come together and the way that they've changed, and a lot of them have matured through that 22-week period. This is a project we did a few years ago under the 20 Million Tree Program. 340,000 trees propagated and planted by Noosa and District Landcare down at a land of plains on a national park. It was really tough, but we got this done, and this was the last day. They were quite happy about it. It's a funny site. It's very flat, and it used to flood a lot. It was very, very difficult to do the planting. So I'll just show you this last slide, and then if there's any questions, we can have some questions. But the land care movement is dominated by older, and brackets, I'm allowed to say that because I'm really old, and people of retirement age. This is understandable, as young people need to get money for rent, cars, and life. So what we've been able to do here is provide meaningful employment to younger people and pay them, not much, but still pay them. And the benefits are enormous, but they cut both ways. So for the young people themselves, the people get a sense of a community. They're doing tangible things to help address climate change and address eco-anxiety. They're part of a family, of a team. Regional employment for youth, not having to go to the big smoke. wards off social isolation and depression, improved health outcomes, building confidence, networking and mentoring opportunities. For us, the employers, we get young, fresh, vibrant ideas, better connection and understanding of the issues that young people face. Affordability, because we don't pay them a great deal, we get a huge bang for our buck. And succession of employees. We grow our own staff and we try and employ them within the crew. So literally, we grow our own staff. So that's it. I'm really pleased to be part of a Landcare group that has this succession. I'll finish on this note, Andrew. Many years ago, when I was in this organisation, if I got sick or run over by a bus, maybe the bus driver would care. But these days, it wouldn't matter whether I was here or not. There are so many young people with skills and knowledge of the organisation that I can step to the left or retire and know that it'll be run better than it is now. Thank you.
Oh, what a fantastic presentation there, Phil. I can really relate to it myself, having been in years past, done work for the Dole projects, similar sorts of setups there, so I can really relate. I feel you, you know, and but I don't think I had the success that you've just shown. It's quite amazing. I have quite a few questions I'd like to put to you.
Sure.
Megan Lee, you might know from Intrepid Landcare, she's posed, she's a comment here. Love your work, Phil and team. Noosa District Landcare is such an amazing Landcare model. I think what's interesting, Megan just did a presentation with Jaden the other day on mental health. So I noticed that was one of the points that you raised there. I don't know if you want to elaborate any more on that.
Yeah, well, I think it's a really serious issue. And as we speak, we've got a young guy here who's actually doing his final year in social work. And he's doing a placement with us, looking at setting up a mentor program for our Indigenous trainees, and also looking at ways to get feedback from our people that have got some issues in the mental health realm. I think that being part of a team, understanding their issues, but mainly getting them out into our beautiful bush, turning them on to the trees, the wildlife and things, it helps. So I've seen people come to us that have been complete introverts and come out of their skin and realise, crikey, this is what I want to do. So yeah, Intrepid do some great work. But I think as a way, particularly with this current thing we've got, there's a lot of people that aren't used to being locked up that are. But we're very lucky here to be able to help people. As I said to you, I get the biggest thrill out of that rather than trees planted, etc.
Yeah. I'll just move on to another question from Steve Cadozals. I hope I pronounced that correctly. As a skilling Queensland trainee with Barung Landcare on the Sunshine Coast, I can tell you what a great program it is. So much hands-on experience. Sorry, that was a comment.
Yep, he's right. Barung's not a bad mob either. Hi, Barung.
From Susan, hi Phil, did your group start as a paid network Landcare group or as a volunteer Landcare group?
Oh boy, as you can probably see if we've got colour on the screen, I've been around since God's dog was a puppy. When I was first here, I was a volunteer. There was one or two programs under what was called NHT1 back then. But the problem with that was after 2 years, the program finished. And so the project officer was out on the street kicking a can. So as a group, we recognised that it wasn't a sustainable model, sitting there waiting for a bird to put a funding grub in your mouth. So we went along the fee-for-service journey. So we started as a volunteer organisation, yes, but then slowly developed projects and then went out and actually generated our own income.
Wow, that's really impressive. The last comment I've got here from Meg Plethybridge is great overview, Philip. Are your traineeships financially supported, covered by a specific Queensland government program?
Yes. So there was a previous program called the Green Army, which I'll be very honest with, I wasn't a huge fan. The one we have now is run by the state government, called Skilling Queenslanders for Work, Department of Small Business, Industry and Training. And it's a great program. Yes, it is covered completely. The first start trainee, which is 1 year, not completely, but very close. So all their training, their ACDC, their uniforms, we employ the supervisors. That's all covered by the Skilling Queenslanders for Work program. It's a great program. Come to Queensland, get involved.
Yeah, well, it makes me want to come to Queensland and get involved. I was born up that way too, at Redcliffe. I just have a question on a different tact, an anonymous one. Have you ever had water issues regarding the planted trees? How did you manage?
I'm not quite sure what water issues means, as in drought, perhaps, I'm guessing. So on occasions we have that. We generally plant with an aquasphere, so it's a high pressure water jet on a lance. So we're planting into a slurry, which means they're really incredibly well watered at initial planting stage. That tends to ward off any issues. We also get around about 66 inches of rain a year up here, so we're fairly well resourced in that area. At Atlanta Plains, we've had the opposite. There was more water than we wanted, so we did lose some plants in that way. As a general rule, we allow for some deaths and factor into the project that we can replace, say, 10% at any time. Probably predation by hares and wallabies is a bigger problem than drought.
I can't help but put another comment forward from Gail Hill. Phil and other growth, the other growth comes from your roving restorers group.
Yep.
We're a strong family. Thank you for your model.
Oh, thanks. Roving restorers rock. They're really great.
Oh, great. Well, we'll wrap up there, Phil. So thanks a lot for coming and sharing your wonderful program up there in Noosa.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Bye.
Thanks, Phil. We'll now have a 5-minute break, and please select the next session you're interested to join.